Welcome to the review of Castlevania. It was originally created by Konami, but this conversion for DOS was created by Unlimited Software Inc. and released in 1990. I think everyone is familiar with the Castlevania series, and the fact that in the United States we had the Nintendo Entertainment System, which did a fantastic implementation of this game. Well, the DOS version is not quite as good, but I'm here to review it nevertheless. Just in case you're not familiar with the series, you play Simon Belmont, who's a vampire hunter, and he's going after Dracula. That's the plot of the first game, at least. So it's a side-scrolling action-adventure platformer type game. As you can see, you have a whip and an upgrade to a Morning Star, and you start off by hitting these torches or whatever you want to call them. And then of course you can get a special weapon, such as these knives here that I can throw. There's hidden items such as that special bag of money there that gives you points. You can hit candles in order to get items, and then the enemies start coming toward you like these ghosts. Luckily the game isn't a one-hit die type game. You do have hit points, which are shown at the top, and different enemies take off a different amount of hit points for each attack. Here we just got another special type weapon. Instead of the knife, now we have holy water. And each of the weapons in the game have different types of effects. This kind of is thrown in an arc, and when it hits the ground, it will continue to kill the enemies for a short period of time. You can climb upstairs. You can jump, duck, of course everything that a normal platformer has. Sometimes you need to duck down and attack to hit enemies that are low on the ground. You'll be spending a lot of time jumping over pits, where if you fall, you're dead. And of course there's these little platforms that move around that you have to jump on as well. There's a special weapon in the game that's rarely seen, which is a cross that destroys all the enemies on the screen. You just saw it there. There's also this meat. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it restores your hit points. It's kind of interesting. It's just hidden in the wall there. And there's also the rare invisible potions, which makes you flash and then you can go right through the enemy. It's pretty much useless though, because the only time you find it toward the beginning of the game, and you don't really need it. Some monsters will jump out of the water and attack you. Others, such as the infamous Medusa head, fly around in a given pattern, and you have to try to avoid them. There's towers that'll shoot fireballs at you. You'll run across ghosts. Red skeletons where they can't die, you hit them and they collapse and then they come back. Of course the infamous hunchbacks or monkeys, whatever you want to call them. They always look like monkeys to me. They're much easier in this game. The original Castlevania, they were much harder for the NES. There's the dragon heads that come out and shoot fireballs at you. Here we use the stopwatch to kind of hold it for a period of time. Speaking of which, stopwatch can be very useful in certain areas of the game, especially in areas where monsters are jumping out, trying to knock you off into pits or the water. You can see here its effect. There's the Boomerang, which is one of the best weapons. Basically just flies across horizontally where you throw it and it'll come back. It's great for hitting those hard to reach enemies. The axe is thrown in an arc. Can also hit some tough to hit enemies. And then we have what we call the boss battles, where you fight one tough enemy toward the end of the stage. Here's the giant bat, which is the first boss battle. It's actually one of the harder in the DOS version, surprisingly. Once you kill the boss, you get this special orb, which allows you to move on to the next stage. You get a certain number of points based on how much time you had left and how many hearts you had stored. Incidentally, you get extra lives once you reach a certain score. So then it shows the map to show you what area you're at, and you move on to the next stage. So here's another set of bosses. These are the mummies, which actually were pretty lame. You could just stand up there and throw axes at them, and that was pretty much it. And we all know in the original NES version that Grim Reaper was extremely hard. He was probably the hardest one to beat. Well, in this version it's just pathetically easy, mainly because of the limitation of this game. Its frame rate is just so low, and the AI is just terrible. If you find an item that shows a Roman numeral number 2, it allows you to throw 2 weapons at a given time. You get charges for your weapons by picking up hearts. The large hearts are worth 5 and the small hearts 1. And you do lose the rapid fire if you pick up a new weapon. Because this game's a platformer, you're going to spend a lot of time falling and dying. Now, I was playing with the keyboard, and let me tell you, the controls were absolutely horrid. That is my biggest complaint about this game. It's almost unplayable. The response of the keyboard is terrible. In fact, sometimes it doesn't even register. And then the hit detection of this game is terrible. You can see my whip, the Morning Star, is going right through that candle. It's not even hitting it. And sometimes you'll be attacking an enemy and it doesn't even register that you're hitting it. There's no way to tell. And the graphics won't show. Like right there. See, my whip is actually going and you can't tell. Or there's glitchiness, such as throwing these knives and it's showing that you're hitting this Frankenstein monster here, but it doesn't actually hurt it until they start moving. Here's another example of bad hit detection. I didn't even touch that thing and it killed me. Plus there's a delay when you die sometimes. Okay, so I was just killed and you're standing there flashing. What is up with that? This DOS version does have a save game feature, which is absolutely a requirement based on the terrible controls. It restores you to the stage you were at with the hit points, weapon, and same hearts. You can switch the sound. Here's what ad-lib sounds like. And here is the horrid PC speaker. The worst part about the PC speaker is the sounds. Just listen to this. Yeah, I think anybody'd be muting the game after that. So in closing, because of the terrible controls with using the keyboard, I don't recommend playing this game. You'll just get very frustrated. And for a 1990 game, the sound and the graphics are very poor, so it doesn't even have that going for it. The only thing that's going for this game is that it kept true to the Castlevania series. If you've ever played the NES version of this game, you'll never want to play this version. I'm now going to show what happens when you beat the game, so if you don't want a spoiler, please stop watching now. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you next time.